This is the KHOODEELAAR television channel, broadcasting under the banner of baby angel Geronimo. Friday, 24th of February 2023. This broadcast was started about a minute and a half later than 23:30. So we shall be treating this one as part 3 of the world exclusive essay on the legal and human rights of Shamima Begum. This is so because of the various items that have been published in the last 48 hours following the publication of the ruling by the so-called Special Immigration Appeals Commission, which is an absurdity because to treat Shamima Begum as an immigrant is absurd, absolutely absurd, and it is a contradictory kind of proposition. And the people who are supposedly the formal official representatives on behalf of Shamima Begum should have raised this before the proceedings began, and they should have boycotted that and should have demanded that a forum where they should be filing the appeal should be a part of the UK's internal domestic constitutional judicial system, such as the Court of Appeal. And also, they should have demanded that the usual convention that an appeal can only be about the law should be changed, because this is not the subject of Shamima Begum's being robbed of her citizenship by birth, British citizenship by birth. The subject itself is exceptional because this is not normally done. So the exception should have been followed by altering the remits of the appeal from being confined to just the so-called law and to examining the actual evidence and examining the actual so-called trial, which would have also required the examination of the behavior and the conduct of the incumbent at the time in the Ministry of Interior, Sajid Javid. And they should have demanded disclosure. They should have demanded the disclosure to the public or in the public kind of hearing. Any relevant evidence that actually exists of Shamima Begum warranting the treatment which she has been given, in effect, as a de facto terrorist. Because all the legal things that have been said about Shamima Begum and her legal rights and lack of legal rights about being allowed to return to the UK, which is our home country. These legal arguments have taken place in emptiness, because most of the legal issues, most of the legal kind of factors that do apply have been left out by her own side, if you like, of the legal team. And as I hinted at, well, spoke about Gareth Pierce yesterday. I mean, Gareth Pierce is not trying to rock the boat. She was speaking almost like the lawyer in the last court appearance, representing the interests of Geronimo. Because that lawyer, a female from name, came across clearly as being timid and being restricted examining the scope of what she was doing was keeping herself well within the bounds defined by the state. Now, it was the state's abuse by the depravity, the illness personified by Christian, George Injustice Eustace, and their legal so-called team going to the last sitting that involved a court judge who was a woman. Her Shamima Begum is a threat. In what way? What precedent is there? Precedent in as spelled Precedent. Precedent. Example before. What basis? So that is the briefest summary again about what Shamima Begum's formal legal side involved in the appeal have said and represented and have failed to do and should have represented. We shall come back to that in due course again because this is part C of our commentary, worldwide, world exclusive commentary on Shamima Begum based on the repercussions or comments and commentary after the publication of the ruling. Now, let's look at the Times newspaper of yesterday. Times newspaper of yesterday, which is the day after the day of the publication of the SIAC ruling. And the Times newspaper had the editorial, what is called the leader comment. The Times newspaper has the editorial, the leader comment, and let's see what, if I can reach it. Okay, so this is the leader comment on page 27 of the leading articles. The middle one, there are three. First one is about the Democratic Unionist Party in Ulster, the Rishi Sunak. The middle one is about Shamima Begum. And the third one is about Theresa Coffey and the stupidity about the salad shortage in the UK. Now, the middle one is about Shamima Begum, and the heading is 4 words: stateless in the desert. And the subheading is the government must explain why it refuses to bring Shamima Begum home. Now, that is as clear a statement as can be found anywhere about the government's kind of role anywhere in the media. Now, this is the where that this is the one that in the middle, just about stateless in the desert. That is in the middle, and it says the Times piece, leader piece, leading article in the Times. It says Shamima Begum was 15 when she left her home in East London, crossed illegally into Syria, and was married to a jihadist from Islamic State. Now, that whole statement is completely misleading and false. First of all, she was 15, that is true, but she didn't leave home in East London. She didn't leave home in East London at all. She didn't leave anywhere. What she did was she was trafficked, groomed, brainwashed, and she was put on a course, a journey by some other forces other than herself, other than her family. And then crossed illegally into Syria. She didn't. She was transported wherever she was transported to and through whatever territories by other factors and forces, not herself. She didn't do anything voluntarily illegal because she didn't know what was happening. So there was no question of her playing any part in terms of intention or in terms of violation of anything. And then it says, was married to a jihadist from Islamic State. That is absolute lie. Because even the Times knows and has published references to the fact that she was trafficked and that she was trafficked for to be used as a sex object. and that she was not married, because how could it, the definition of marriage, the definition of marriage requires 1,000 times longer period of reflection than she was able to spend, and it was 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 12 minutes. So the whole Times editorial, although it says correctly that the government, that is the UK government, must explain why it refuses to bring Shamima Begum home, that is the only correct thing that is there. Because in the rest of the editorial, there is no reference to any of those treaties and declarations and conventions and all the rest of it that I have mentioned before today, and I have mentioned in the last 4 years. Now, here it says in the middle of the kind of column, the middle column of the piece, now the editorial then gives the various accounts, and I'll come to those. But the editorial in the Times does not, despite the fact that it is criticizing with genuine kind of statements, or part of the statements are genuine anyway, criticizing the behavior of the United Kingdom government or British government, it is also leaving out the really serious evidence that would expose the British government justifiably worthy of being condemned over this whole abuse of state power. Now let's see what it says. Going back to this, the Home Office decree, a political response by Sajid Javid to the popular mood, remember that is, has now been upheld by the Special Immigration Appeals Commission. It said there was a credible suspicion that she had been trafficked, the victim of sexual exploitation. But it also argued that Shamima Begum had traveled to Syria voluntarily, and upheld evidence, that is the Immigration Commission, given in secret by MI5, that she remained a security threat. Now, this is what I meant by the reference to the legal side that appeared on our behalf, that they should have demanded the disclosure of the evidence that was made secretly available to the court, to the commission. What evidence, what actual evidence existed that actually justified Shamima Begum to be treated in the way that she has been, which is to be denied justice. That she remained a security threat despite her 3 years isolated under guard in a camp. Now that is a very important, that is an important factor that the Times editorial contained. That she was there under the security guard for 3 years. An anonymous witness argued that she must have been old enough to know of the executions carried out by Islamic State. Now, it's an anonymous witness, which could be anybody, which could be a genuine witness. And how could a genuine witness remain anonymous? And how could a genuine witness deny Shamima Begum's incarceration with within a space guarded by guards, and she is not free physically or otherwise to move about and access, make contacts with others, any others? The judgment seems perverse on several counts. This is what the Times is calling this SIAC Commission judgment. And a perpetrator. That is a very good logical question. Why should she now be considered a danger still to British society? And how could the government claim it was not leaving her stateless? A move ruled out by United Nations provisions was also Bangladeshi citizenship. The citizenship issue is only half the problem. More irresponsible is the UK government's refusal to repatriate her and have her face justice for crimes deemed to have been committed abroad. Despite the difficulty of gathering evidence needed for conviction in a British court, almost alone among the Western nations whose citizens joined Islamic State in Syria, Britain rules out repatriating those now abandoned in desert camps. All 27 Americans known to have traveled to Iraq and Syria to join ISIS were taken back to the United States in 2020, that is 4 calendar years ago, with 10 of them charged or convicted of terrorism. Last month, France repatriated 15 women and 23 children from Syrian camps. Australia and other countries have done the same. As well as leaving Begum behind, Britain is refusing also to take back some 60 other women and children. Is there any doubt that these children, now young, will be brutally schooled into becoming terrorists themselves? Begum, though she has suffered the deaths of 3 children and probable abuse at the hands of men in Islamic State, is certainly not an innocent victim. When the Times found her in Syria in 2019, she expressed no word of regret for her actions. She explained vague and she explained most recently in a television documentary. However, the government, that is the British government, has still given no convincing answer on why she must not return home or what threat she still poses that cannot be countered by close monitoring. It would, of course, take scarce resources to do so, and the security service is already overstretched, monitoring at least 400 potential terrorists. But punishing people by leaving them stateless in the desert is no answer to terrorism. Now, there the Times actually abdicates responsibility. I mean, that is the That is the completely illogical end to the substance of the facts that it has actually related about the other countries doing the things, and especially the Americans taking their kind of ISIS recruits and whatever and prosecuting them, trying them, etc., etc. And Britain being isolated in that it is alone among the Western countries, which has been refusing to take back and bring back its own citizens. So the UK, so this set of facts that the Times editorial has contained should have been followed by something like all of these make Britain the violator of the law, violator of the obligations that it is signed up to, and that kind of thing. It should have invoked the United Nations Charter, the conventions, and all the other things, and the various other provisions that are available in international law, citizenship, human rights, and so on. But the Times fails there. Okay, so the Times fails there in the editorial, but that editorial is generally mentioned in the two letters that have been published in the Times today, that is Friday the 24th. Well, Friday the 24th, not today because we are just into Saturday the 25th. So the Times on the letters column, let's go to the two letters that the Times has actually published on Friday the 24th of February. So these are the two letters. The two letters both are headed together, and it says "Bring Begum Home." And the first one is by somebody called Charles Peck, like Gregory Peck, Peck, who is described as a JP, which is Justice of the Peace, who is a magistrate in Eastbourne. And the second one is by Brigadier retired Edward Brown, who has written from Milford in Surrey. So the first one is less equivocal. Let's read that one, the first one in the Times. That both of them, the letters are today, that is on Friday the 24th of February. The style, the home style that is used by the Times is, "Sir, surely our national security is not enhanced when a UK born woman is stripped of her citizenship for naively running off as a child into groomed marriage." And then within brackets, there is the quotation: "Begum loses appeal to have UK citizenship reinstated." News, February 23rd. Instead, she should have been treated as a victim, entitled to all the help and protection of the British government. As your leading article, Stateless in the Desert, February 23rd, notes, Britain is almost alone among Western nations in refusing to repatriate those of its citizens who joined Islamic State. That is a shameful position to be in. Again, that letter doesn't go anywhere near summarizing, including in the summary anyway, of all the illegalities that are being done by the United Kingdom state in its treatment of Shamima Begum. This is not to excuse, no way. This is most emphatically not to excuse anything wrong that Shamima Begum has done. But there has to be due process. Due process is defined. Let's go to due process. due process so the definitions from Oxford Languages of due process says fair treatment through the normal judicial system, especially a citizen's entitlement to notice of a charge and a hearing before an impartial judge. Now, of course, all three elements are taken away from Shamima Begum because she has been arbitrarily stripped of, robbed of, denied her about citizenship. Now let's go to meaning as offered by Merriam-Webster dictionary. As I said, the name Miriam sounds like a feminine name, but it's not. In the context of that particular company, the dictionary Merriam-Webster, Miriam is the name of the people whose second name, the founders of the business that had the name Miriam. Well, it's not coming up because of the internet connection being too slow. Okay, so it's a course of formal proceedings such as legal proceedings carried out regularly and in accordance with established rules and principles, also called procedural due process. And the second meaning is it's a noun, a judicial requirement that enacted laws not contain provisions that result in the unfair, arbitrary, or unreasonable treatment of an individual, also called substantive due process. Now, by none of these definitions available, objectively available, has the treatment of Shamima Begum been fair. It has all been unfair because Javed, in his gloating tweet posted on the internet shortly after the publication of the ruling by the Commission on the 22nd of February 2023, Javed was ecstatic. I mean, he came back from the dead because politically he has died by announcing twice that he was not going to stand as a candidate for election as MP at the next election. Why does he keep coming back? And the fact that he has come back not to actually substantiate anything he had done originally when he took away Shamima Begum's citizenship in 2019, but to reflect, but to gloat in the reflected kind of comfort or platform given to him by this announcement of the ruling by the Commission. And as Gareth Pierce has said, the Commission itself is invoking the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't order the Commission to invoke itself so, but the Commission itself has voluntarily decided to invoke by limiting itself to well within the limits set by the Supreme Court in its stooging role against Shamima Begum. So we have at every stage that I'm discussing, there is contradiction, there is timidity, and there is stupidity because the application of due process, the application of the due process objectively defined requires open, most importantly, fair treatment. Everything that Sajid Javid has done has been unfair. Like I said, the comments made by Sarah Vanity in her appearance on the Sky News press preview edition fronted by Sky News presenter Anna Botting. Sarah Vanity made a pack of lies and so on. So forget about what Shamima Begum has actually done. Sarah Vanity accused Shamima Begum of putting herself on the front page, on the front cover, and I've got this cover now, of the London Times magazine, dated the 4th of February 2023. Let's put this one there because hopefully this camera will be able to show some of it at least. This is the yes, this is the cover. It's almost all of it there. This is the London Times newspapers magazine on Saturday, the 4th of February 2023. Now, Sarah Vanity accused Shamima Begum of putting herself on this cover of that magazine. Now, anyone's even kind of with basic familiarity with the printing, journalism, publishing, and editorial decisions would know that the subject of the article doesn't even know where they're going to be put in the publication. And there is no role for the subject of an article in what the cover contains, because the given issue of the magazine, any issue of the magazine, any ordinary average issue of the magazine would contain about 10 articles, separate articles, unless it is a dedicated one subject, one topic only edition. And any one of the 10 articles could be featured as the main one on the cover. And given that Sarah Vanity has been associated with the Daily Mail group for many years, how is it that she expressed such a profound, deep ignorance and stupidity? How shocking that Anna Botting, who has been presenting Sky News programs for many years, didn't notice and didn't think it necessary to point out and correct the grossly, grotesquely incorrect, false, and misleading, unfair, untruthful, untrue assertion by Sarah Vanity. So there is overwhelming prevalence and overwhelming circulation of prejudice against Shamima Begum. Now, as we said, and I am having to say because of the legal kind of nature of this discussion, this program and myself in particular, we don't know this individual, Shamima Begum. We never knew her as a child. We don't know her now, she is 23. We don't know anyone connected with her, either biologically or socially or in any other way whatsoever. Now, that is the first point. Second point is the only basis on which we make any comment, any observation, raise any questions, make any criticism about anybody involved is based on the accessible sources that are publicly accessible, like news items, like transcripts, like reports. And thirdly, the contextual commentary that we are making is based on our own experience of objectively engaged experience about the legal rights internationally and in terms of the UK. And we say that on all counts, on all grounds, all the provable evidence, the way that the United Kingdom's state power or powers has or have been used by Sajid Javid and others are wrong, contrary to the law, contrary to the terms of the agreements, the conventions, the treaties, and also of domestic laws. So this is the part C of our analysis of the ruling and its summary, as well as the comments that have been made about the ruling, and in terms of the context beyond that, in the leading along the side on that day, which is the Saturday, 4th of February 2023, there is a quotation on the front page by a statement by Joshua Baker. Well, statement quoting Shamima Begum by Joshua Baker. That was the piece in the Times magazine, which is written by Joshua Baker, who is the one that has been involved in doing the broadcast with her, and also saying how he has spent the particular period in preparing these podcasts and the one edition of the Shamima Begum story that went out on the BBC Two. These are evidential, fact based kind of sources. And there is, of course, this item by Hugo Rifkind on the following Saturday, which is 11th of February 2023, where Hugo Rifkind, as a kind of semi mockingly, semi jokingly, uses the word she was 15. Now, she was, of course, 15, and what he's doing is that she should not be treated as if she was an adult when she, well, according to him, she went to Syria. And he is aiming at those people who have been criticizing Shamima Begum for behaving in the way that Sajid Javid has criticized her. So, to recap again, there are legal rules and requirements that the prosecutor or the kind of person making the decision to remove somebody's birthright, which is what it is. Shamima Begum is a citizen of the United Kingdom, a British subject by birth. She is not somebody who was born somewhere else and came to the United Kingdom from somewhere else. She was born here in the United Kingdom. And the birth occurred involving two people, her parents, who themselves had come from another country, which is Bangladesh. And when it was kind of publicized that Shamima Begum was probably going to be deported by the United Kingdom to Bangladesh because she was considered to have a Bangladeshi nationality or citizenship, the immediate reaction from the Bangladesh regime was that she wasn't. And other harsh things have been said at the time, condemning Shamima Begum as a terrorist and hinting that she would be murdered, she would be assassinated or hanged if she were sent to Bangladesh, that kind of thing. None of those applies because Shamima Begum is not a Bangladeshi. She never went to Bangladesh. She has not ever kind of identified herself as a Bangladeshi. The nearest she has come in terms of identifying herself, in terms of ethnicity or origin or whatever, is to refer to her parents being from Bangladesh. And as I said yesterday, her parents, immediately after she was in the news in 2015, this very month, February 2015. So February 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So 8 years, let's say. She was in the news along with the other two girls, Khadija Sultana and Amira Abbasi. But that news item was followed by a reference to her parents not being together. It was stated that her mother was in the UK, but her father returned to the place where he came from in Bangladesh, in Sylhet, Greater Sylhet, in Sunamganj area. And it was suggested that he might be having a separate life, new family, etc., etc. Whatever the details, the fact is that Shamima Begum was never a Bangladeshi, and she was never considered to be a Bangladeshi, except that she was only considered as a descendant, Bangladeshi heritage, etc., etc. Now, how Sajid Javid made that decision to treat her as an immigrant, as a migrant, is beyond reason, beyond understanding, beyond cognition. Now, we move now to the silence of the Tower Hamlets Council. Let's go to check the latest status on the Tower Hamlets Council website. Let's see. That's what I'm doing. Anyone watching this program and not looking at the screen as I am looking can be kept absolutely aware of what I am doing. I'm checking the website of the Tower Hamlets Council. Website of the portal. The Tower Hamlets Council, I'm checking at 0025 hours GMT on Saturday, the 25th of February 2023. And let's see if they have got a different result to the name Shamima or Shamima Begum, if there is any entry, Shamima Begum on their internet portal, which is called Tower Hamlets, one word, .gov.uk. So I have entered Shamima Begum, these two words, in the search box. And it says, your search for Shamima Begum returned 0 results. That is what happened 24 hours earlier. And I'll try the other one, which is the subject that I really kind of invoke, referring to the duty of the council, safeguarding children. Safeguarding children duty. Now, before I give the results, safeguarding children duty is not unique to Tower Hamlets. All local councils, like Tower Hamlets Council, have that duty generally to safeguard children in the borough, in their own borough. And it says, safeguarding children duty. Your search for safeguarding children duty returned 0 results. So let me just explain this one. This is not an issue, safeguarding children duty, that can automatically be associated with Shamima Begum at all. But Tower Hamlets Council is so criminally active and corrupt that it doesn't want to have on its website the slightest possible traceable connection between itself and Shamima Begum. So the second letter in the Times today, which said that the state has done it wrong by refusing Shamima Begum return to the UK, what this one, the brigadier, retired brigadier, is saying in that second letter in the Times of Friday, the 24th of February 2023, is that Shamima Begum should be turned into a prevent preacher. The prevent program being the program that has been actually created to prevent Muslims, really. But he doesn't mention Muslim, but he says, the brigadier, that Shamima Begum should be allowed to return to the UK and she should be sent out to schools and whatever, speaking to children about the bad things that terrorism does and terrorism is. So let's see this letter, the second letter from the Times today, that is today, the Times of Friday. So this is the letter that the second individual has written. It's called Brigadier Retired Edward Brown. And he has written these from Milford, Surrey, in England. And what he's saying there, I'll see if I can bring the letter nearer. Shamima Begum has a harrowing story to tell. That is his letter. And now appears genuinely remorseful. While I do not for a moment condone her conduct, he doesn't say what conduct, is there not an opportunity to employ her under the Prevent UK counter-terrorism strategy and send her out to talk to young people in Britain who are at risk of being radicalized? If it does not work out, she could be either returned to Syria or detained in the UK. Now, that last sentence is an idiotic one. I mean, where in Syria could she be returned? So, I mean, there is not a lot of wisdom and intelligence in the part of this. Most of the people are commenting on. They don't have knowledge. Because this retired Brigadier Edward Brown from Milford has no clue as to the thing that Prevent does, the Prevent outlet. As I said yesterday and before, the fact that the notorious anti Muslim genocide supporter William Shawcross was appointed by the cons to review the operation of the Prevent program itself shows that there would not be there would not be any truthful and fair and objective and non-racist review, and it has turned out to be so. Shawcross actually focuses his venom and his hatred and his incitement there are so many things going on in Syria would itself take many hours. Suffice to say that there are too many things going wrong and too many wrong things being allowed to be done, perpetrated by the absence, because of the absence in the United Kingdom of any real, objective, moral, ethical, democratic supervision for the sake of everyone. So when we say baby angel Geronimo is the world's bestest witness, that is what we mean. We mean that the evidence being witnessed by an independent, objective, most innocent baby angel Geronimo every day compels the conclusion that there is no real forum, there is no real organ of the state or of society to hold the wrongdoers to account and to stop them from doing the wrong things. And it applies to the behavior on the part of the UK state and its agencies as exhibited against the basic international objective rights of the baby angel Geronimo, the most innocent one, as well as it applies to others, including in the current topic against Shamima Begum, they have done. And to kind of recap, the the admitted, the pronounced, the proclaimed, the asserted, the given institutions like the courts, like the parliament, like the media, are all doing the wrong things. So, therefore, where do you go? There is an emptiness. There is an emptiness that dominates the whole of the proceedings. And that emptiness can only be filled by substantive ethicality and morality and justice and fairness, none of which is present now, but all of these must be established. And nobody has said so far. People have said this first letter by this Peck, who is the Justice of the Peace, is that this is not fair to the girl, Shamima Begum. But there has to be more, much more than that should be said. So what we are doing is going back to Tower Hamlets, as we said. And the Tower Hamlets Council is kind of the facade, the frontage is the corrupt Lutfur Rahman. And the corrupt Lutfur Rahman Now, this thing that they have got about the Language Day, 21st of February, International Language Day, is a grotesque misrepresentation of the truth of what happened in 1952. If it was a sacrifice made for the Bangla language, then how is it that the Bangla language date, Bangla calendar is not the focus of the date on which the sacrifice is observed? So it is all denial. Termless Council is denying its duties owed to the children like Shamima Begum, Amira Abbasi, Khadija Sultan, and Sharmina Begum, who left few months before the other three girls. And there is no evidence that anyone in the community, so called, that is affiliated to anything to do with the name of the community collectively is concerned about that. Because going back to the beginning of the disaster that happened in the series of activities that involved Shamima Begum being brainwashed and being kind of made to leave her own home, go somewhere else, highlights the failures at every stage of the local council, failures of the school, failures of the police, and failures of the democratically elected so-called representatives for the ward in the context of the local council and the constituency in the context of the parliament. And none of the parliamentary representatives, either Roshanara Ali or Afsana Begum, is on the record saying anything about Shamima Begum whatsoever. How is it? Because the most important, the most immediate, and the most urgent level where the issues of policy, issues of society nationally, society locally, security nationally, these are discussed at the level of the parliament. How is it that there has been no record of Rushnar Ali talking about Shamima Begum? Let's go and check if we can find any reference in order to make sure that I'm not making an outdated kind of comment. Well, there is a comment that is mentioned here, so we'll check that one. So Rushna Ali is talking about the UK government and reading the contents of this item. She is not talking about the failure of the Tower Hamlets Council. And this one, this edition, this one is dated. This one is dated in 2020. Let's check the actual date. I think this is one. This one is dated in 2020. And let's go back to the other one. There is another one. So this one that I've just mentioned is dated the 16th of July, 2020. And there's another one on the 14th of February, 2019. And there is another one, 11th of March, 2019. So this one is the so Rushna Ali is being equivocal because she's talking, of course, about Shamima Begum being brought back to the United Kingdom and arrested and prosecuted and all the rest of it. But she is most certainly not mentioning Tower Hamlets Council's role whatsoever. So what I'm illustrating here is that the so-called elected representative at parliamentary level is failing Shamima Begum as well on the objective tests. Because Shamima Begum and the other two girls were betrayed, let down, neglected by Tower Hamlets Council. And Shamima Begum was being commented on while in Tower Hamlets, the position of the mayor, when Rushna Ali made that comment, the position for the post of the mayor was being held by John Biggs of the Labour Party, so called. Now, I don't know whether Rushna Ali has made any comment about the SIAC ruling, because the latest one that is accessible on her website is the one dated in 2020. So, whether she has made any comment in the last 4 years, including the last 3 days, I have to check and find out if there is any. Essentially, even if I find any trace of Rushna Ali making any comment about Shamima Begum being denied her citizenship by birth, I don't think I'll find anything Rushna Ali has ever said or will ever say that will carry the truth in the contents. It will be part of the truth, but most of it will be obfuscation and deviation and distraction and diversion. Because Rushna Ali is in place as a Labour Party MP because she serves the agenda of the racists, serves the agenda of the anti-Muslims. And she is never going to come forward and demand that the racist, the anti-Muslim, the imperialists are held to account. The racists, the anti-Muslims, and the imperialists who are robbing the likes of Shamima Begum of their British by birth citizenship and British by birth rights and entitlements. So we got the case of Rushnar Ali dealt with. Where is the evidence of any councillor? Of course, Luther Rahman has got a kind of majority of current Tower Hamlets councillors on his side because they belong to the same platform that he has used for the 5th of May 2022 so-called election. What about the Labour Party, which is the numerically the second biggest councillors? Let's see individually, because on the council's website, there won't be anything that is not approved by Luther Rahman on the website because he has got the majority. He's got a majority despite the fact that he's got. There may be any number of councillors, but he, being the executive mayor, can overrule all of them. So let's check if individually the Tower Hamlets Labour Party councillors have made any different stance. So the observation on the 21st of February 2023 of the so-called International Mother Language Day contained assertions and statements that are contradictory, false, untrue, and mentally servile and completely packs of lies. Because if it was the Bangla language that they were observing, how is it that they didn't choose the Bangla language date, which one happened coinciding with the or corresponding to the calendar year in the Christian calendar, the English calendar in 1952? The date on when this shooting of the students happened was called 8th of Falgun. And they haven't mentioned 8th of Falgun at all. So they're mental slaves and they're liars. So we shall be talking more about this in due course, not in this edition, but we shall be doing that. So let's check if any of the counselors, let's say this one, I'm checking a random tweet, see if they have got anything on that tweet about Shamima Begum. So the one of the Twitter accounts we're checking is run by Abdal Ullah. And this is posted on the 21st of February. And he's talking about honor to observe Ekushe February, 21st February, with the British Bangladeshi community. There is no mention of Ekush Arti Falgun, and he's repeating his servitude to their majesties, by which he means Brian, King Brian, and his wife. They're photographed in the Altabali Park. But there is no entry about the ruling by the SIAC on the day after, which is 22nd of February 2023. So Abdullah hasn't mentioned Shamima Begum at all.
And after you spoke last night, there was a senior Labour politician who went on the radio, a guy called Wes Streeting. I'm sure you don't know. He could be the next health secretary if the Labour Party win the next general election. This is what he had to say.
We're not a party of protest. We're a party that wants to be in government, so we can make a difference for working.
He's talking about taking on the big vested interests and the vast inequalities of society.
That's what Labour governments. That's what Labour governments do. And with respect to Bernie Sanders, I genuinely think if he'd won the Democratic nomination, he wouldn't have beat Donald Trump at the election. America would be under Trumpism.
Well, let me inform that gentleman, who I do not know, that every poll that was done during that period had me defeating Trump, and I believe I would have defeated Trump.
The News Agents. This is a Global Player original podcast.
And after you spoke last night, there was a senior Labour politician who went on the radio, a guy called Wes Streeting. I'm sure you don't know. He could be the next health secretary if the Labour Party win the next general election. This is what he had to say.
We're not a party of protest. We're a party that wants to be in government, so we can make a difference for working.
He's talking about taking on the big vested interests and the vast inequalities of society.
That's what Labour governments. That's what Labour governments do. And with respect to Bernie Sanders, I genuinely think if he'd won the Democratic nomination, he wouldn't have beat Donald Trump at the election. America would be under Trumpism.
Well, let me inform that gentleman, who I do not know, that every poll that was done during that period had me defeating Trump, and I believe I would have defeated Trump.
The News Agents. This is a Global Player original podcast.
So what has happened in the East End of London in the last 48 hours is that as far as Shamima Begum, the ruling of Shamima Begum is concerned, there has been no statement made by anyone in any court-elected position in Tower Hamlets. And I'm checking again and again in case I have got it wrong and there has been some kind of statement by someone. I want to make doubly sure that I am not denying them mention when they might have made a comment. So I'm just So there is no reference to anyone on Towners Council or in the House of Commons from Tower Hamlets or anywhere else in an elected capacity that has made any, let's say, comment that is in the news, has been in the news, or can be accessed. So we go back to the emptiness of Tower Hamlets Council's website. Why are they maintaining that position of not recognizing even the existence of Shamima Begum? They don't have to say they support her, whatever she is doing or saying, or they agree with her, whatever she is saying or doing. But objectively, neutrally, they can mention the fact that she has been featured in the news regarding these issues: citizenship, citizenship by birth, etc., etc. Now, why is that important? Because by referring to her legal status, if they refer to her legal status, that doesn't mean that they are agreeing with her or they're supporting her. But they should make references to her legal status and her ethnic origin. Because as Tim Farron, the former leader of the Liberal Democrats in the United Kingdom, correctly said, if Shamima Begum's name was Sharon from Manchester, and if she were white, then she would not have been treated in the way that she has been treated. So we shall be continuing about Shamima Begum and diagnosing the racism, the anti-Islamic bias and the content and the agenda into the fourth part, part D, in due course. This is part C, and this began in actually the evening of Friday, the 24th of February 2023. And we shall be ending at 01 11 hours GMT, with the length of the broadcast being 1 hour 39 minutes plus a few seconds.